Hey guys, this is Chetan for Gizmo Times and you're watching a quick spec comparison of the Xiaomi's Redmi Note 9 Pro, the Redmi Note 8 Pro and the Realme 6. All the three are priced almost the same, only a difference of 1000 rupees between the two devices, and otherwise it's almost the same. So here, the Redmi Note 9 Pro basically comes with a glass back. Redmi Note 8 Pro as well comes with a glass back, but the Realme 6 comes with a plastic back with a different kind of a gradient finish. So the glass back on the Redmi devices is protected by Gorilla Glass 5, but the plastic back on the Realme 6 doesn't need that. So the gradient finish here, it looks a bit different on all the three, but my personal preference with what the looks are is on the Realme 6. But the new refreshing color on the Redmi Note 9 Pro also isn't bad either, but the camera arrangement seems a little not so good for the Redmi Note 9 Pro. It comes with a quad camera setup on the back with a 48 megapixel Samsung GM2 sensor. Now on the Redmi Note 8 Pro you have a primary 64 megapixel camera with an 8 megapixel wide angle camera, which is a common camera on all the three smartphones. Then there's a 2 megapixel depth camera on all the three, and there's a 2 megapixel macro on the Realme 6, while the 64MP primary camera is present on the Realme 6 as well. The macro camera on the Redmi Note 8 Pro and the Note 9 Pro also differ a bit, because the Redmi Note 9 Pro now comes with a 5 megapixel macro camera, which is not present on the other two devices. It's a higher resolution macro camera on the Redmi Note 9 Pro. Now moving on with the displays, it's a 6.67 inch display on the Redmi Note 9 Pro, making it quite larger than the other two, though the size isn't really that different. It's a 6.53 inch display on the Redmi Note 8 Pro, and it's a 6.5 inch on the Realme 6. All the three are IPS LCD and all the three are full HD plus resolution displays. With the Android version that these phones are having right now, it's Android 10 based MIUI 11 on the Redmi Note 9 Pro. On the other side, the Redmi Note 8 Pro comes with an Android 9 Pie based MIUI 11, and the Realme 6 comes with a Realme UI based on Android 10. So the latest Android is present on the latest devices, while the Redmi Note 8 Pro might be getting the Android 10 update in the near future, but right now the MIUI 11 is based on Android 9 Pie here. And with the other features, there's IR blaster on the Redmi devices, which is not present on the Realme 6. With the battery capacity, there's the difference as well. Let's talk about that later. Here you can see a punch hole display on all the two new devices, that's the Realme 6 and the Redmi Note 9 Pro, and the arrangement of that is a bit different, while there's a notch display on the Redmi Note 8 Pro. So getting back to the batteries here, it's a 5020 mAh battery on the Redmi Note 9 Pro, 4500 mAh battery on the Redmi Note 8 Pro, and there's a 4300 mAh battery on the Realme 6, but the Realme 6 has a 30 watt fast charging, which is not present on the other two devices. So there's a 18 watt fast charging on the other two phones, while the Realme 6 clearly wins here with a 30 watt fast charging. So the side mounted fingerprint sensor is something new you see here on the two newly launched phones. The Redmi Note 8 Pro has the fingerprint sensor on the back, while the other two phones have a side mounted fingerprint sensor. This is the camera application on all the three phones, which again is similar on the MIUI phones, while the Realme UI has its own kind of camera application. You have 4K at 30 FPS possible on all the three phones, and with the chipsets that are supporting this, it's Helio G90T on the Redmi Note 8 Pro and the Realme 6, while the Redmi Note 9 Pro has the Qualcomm Snapdragon 720G, which is not a bad chipset, and it has a better battery efficiency with the 8nm manufacturing process. But in the end, the performance or the graphics that you see on the other two phones is going to be better because of a faster GPU, which also supports better gaming. But here with the cameras, it's again a difference of 40 to 48 MP on the Note 9 Pro versus 64 MP on the other two phones, which is the Samsung GW1 sensor on the Note 8 Pro and the Realme 6. Now moving on into one of the important sections, that is gaming. That is something very important for most of the users here. In this price range, most of us look for smartphones that do a lot in the gaming segment. So the Redmi Note 8 Pro and 9 Pro are coming with the Helio G90T, which offers the smooth plus extreme graphics on the PUBG Mobile gaming, while while the Redmi Note 9 Pro doesn't offer that. It offers you Smooth Plus Ultra, that is 40 FPS. So you don't get 60 FPS, which is present on the other two phones. So that's one disadvantage of the Redmi Note 9 Pro. But otherwise, it's not a bad setting. But frankly, again, if you're a gamer, you know that you might always want that highest setting possible, that 60 FPS, which is possible on both the Redmi Note 8 Pro as well as on the Realme 6. So we could show you the graphic settings on the two phones but not on Realme, because it's different IDs needed now, no parallel IDs, and again it's the same chipset on the Note 8 Pro and the Realme 6, so obviously it's the same graphic settings you would be seeing on the two phones. But one thing to keep in mind is that heating issues would be there on the Note 8 Pro as well as on the Realme 6, more on the Realme 6 frankly, because it doesn't have that liquid cooling as well. And apart from that, on the bottom of the phone you have a USB Type-C port on all the three devices. There's a headphone jack, a microphone, as well as a speaker located towards the bottom. Towards the side is that side mounted fingerprint sensor on the Realme 6 as well as the Note 9 Pro, and there's the power button which functions together on that. And there's a secondary microphone on the Redmi devices, but it isn't present on the Realme 6. There's also the air blaster given on the Redmi devices. On the left, there's a dedicated microSD card slot along with two nano SIM card slots on the three phones. So there's no difference there. It's a common feature on all of them, which is a good thing. We are getting to see a dedicated microSD card slot without an issue on the mid-range devices. So this is the quick comparison of the Redmi Note 9 Pro, the Redmi Note 8 Pro and the Realme 6. Now, if you ask me which one should I go with or which one should I suggest you to buy, if you have a budget of around 15,000 or lesser than that, my frank opinion would be the Redmi Note 8 Pro still alongside the Realme 6, because the Note 9 Pro has a better chipset if you are someone who needs a better regular performance. But for gaming, it's not the best chipset out there. The Redmi Note 9 Pro is a better choice for me because it also controls the heating because of that liquid cooling or the cooling technology that it offers. But on the other side, the Realme 6 has a much faster charging technology. So every phone has its own advantage here: a better battery efficiency and a better battery life on the Redmi Note 9 Pro, a better thermal efficiency on the Redmi Note 8 Pro, and finally a faster charging solution on the Realme 6. So it all boils down to your personal preference on what you would want to prefer on these phones, and based on your requirement, which one should you choose. So this was the quick comparison of the Redmi Note 9 Pro, the Redmi Note 8 Pro and the Realme 6 smartphones. I hope you like this video. If you do share and subscribe to Gizmo Times for more. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.